This was the cheese in the salad.
It's dinner time for the Kennedy family.
And the sunny warm weather stays.
But life is not quite normal, and it hasn't been for a while. Jane Kennedy's mother, Eileen Howard, has Alzheimer's disease.
How's your pasta, Grandma?
Good.
Good?
And me and Addie were thinking
That was
like
made
going
with
to
love.
Justice.
Made with what?
Love.
Love, oh my goodness, special good.
Everyone is coping, but also desperately hoping that science will have some answers soon.
I want them to come up with a cure. Let's just say that. I just want them to come up with a cure. Do I want my kids to have this in the future? No, I don't want them. Do I want them to deal with me in the future? No.
So my question is, does that cross the blood-brain barrier?
At the Krembo Research Institute in Toronto, this Alzheimer's researcher is working as fast as he can. A neurologist and chemist, Donald Weaver has screened hundreds of thousands of chemical compounds, searching for something that might work against Alzheimer's disease.
Well, even with the carboxylic acid?
But Alzheimer's is a hard problem.
Certainly, 20 years ago, there were a whole bunch of different avenues, and we didn't know which one to go down. Well, we've gone down a lot of them, and they've all failed.
Scientists don't like to admit it, but they're losing hope for the one theory that has been the main focus of Alzheimer's research for the last 25 years, called the amyloid hypothesis, based on a mysterious protein called amyloid. Scientists still don't know what it does or why the body makes it, but it was an obvious target for drug development because it forms telltale clumps in the brains of people with Alzheimer's.
It must be playing a pretty important role in the disease. If we could target amyloid, then we might have an effective therapeutic, which is why so much effort has gone into targeting amyloid and trying to come up with agents that will block the production or clumping of amyloid.
Pharmaceutical companies have developed a series of drugs aimed at the amyloid target. But one by one, almost all of these drugs have failed in clinical trials. And scientists are quietly facing the disturbing fact that their leading Alzheimer's hypothesis could be fatally flawed. This University of Kentucky Alzheimer's researcher is one of the few who will say it out loud.
Now, after a lot more clinical failures, you really have to start to wonder, have we really gone down the wrong path?
Paul Murphy calls it a zombie hypothesis.
It's like a zombie. Every time you think it's dead, it just gets back up again, and you can't make it go away.
One group that is losing enthusiasm for the amyloid hypothesis is the pharmaceutical industry. In January, drug giant Pfizer announced it's walking away.
There's the feeling that we've put enough into this now, and that putting more resources into the same pool is really just wasting money.
Personally, I am disappointed that some companies are walking away from it, and the fewer companies we have doing it, the more challenging that's going to become. But given the expense and given the failure rate, I understand why they may make the decisions that they're making.
Back in the academic research labs, scientists have started to pick up dropped research threads. Brain inflammation is one older idea that's getting a second look.
And in this particular case, our target is tau.
Weaver is still working on amyloid, but he's also looking at another protein in the brain called tau. It forms distinctive tangles in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease.
And when the tau clumping, we get the bigger dots.
Tau clumping is exactly what Weaver is trying to prevent. But those bright green dots indicate areas where the clumping has happened. And that means the compound being tested here failed.
These are weeks, if not months of work that went into this compound, and it failed. It's done.
Because failure is more common than success, Weaver calls himself a pathological optimist.
I don't regard the failures as total failures. I regard them as learning opportunities. And so we're getting more honed in. And so that's why I think that there's reason for optimism.
When you go for a stop sign, it sounds like a motorcycle.
Back at the Kennedy home, Eileen is suffering from the same disease that plagued her own mother.
I experienced it with my grandmother. I watched my mom take care of her. And, you know, I can remember thinking, oh, I won't ever have to do that. I won't ever have to take care of Mom the same way, but here I am. So I hope my kids don't have to do that for me. Sorry.
But right now, all this family can do is wait for science. And the wait is excruciating. Kelly Crow, CBC News, Newmarket, Ontario.
And Kelly Crow joins me now with a bit more. So there's some hope for that main hypothesis, Kelly, the idea of targeting the amyloid protein. What is that?
Well, some of the thinking is that they just haven't tried it early enough, that by the time the symptoms show up and the disease is diagnosed, that already irreversible damage has happened. So there are people looking at trying it earlier in the disease process. It'll be a few years yet before those answers are in.
And if that doesn't work, what else might they look at?
Well, they have other ideas. For example, neuroinflammation, based on observations that people who take a lot of anti-inflammatory drugs seem to have lower rates of Alzheimer's. Another area of research is the other signature protein in the disease called tau. It forms distinctive tangles in the brain. People are looking at mistakes in the cellular mechanisms, another family of brain cells, for example, maybe the role of free radicals, these damaging molecules that are generated in the body. As one researcher told me, by the time Alzheimer's sets in, the brain is in such disarray that there's no shortage of targets to try. It's just a matter of picking one and then, of course, getting the research funding to pursue it.
Okay, really interesting. Thanks for that, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.